AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. AFR, presented by Relief Windows. I'm Matt.
You're a loser, Matt!
You know, kid, I'm just not in the mood for it today. Taylor Sharp. You so. And Mr. Toby Tomplay. All right. We're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Oh, we'll talk to Kat Terrell in about an hour and 15 minutes from right now. If you haven't heard yet, news reports around the Saints, both Kendre Miller and Erik McCoy done for the season. So bad gets worse around these parts. We'll talk to Kat coming up next hour. Normally we visit with Peter Burns. Right now, Peter is on a plane to Disney World with his kiddos. So good on him. Go take some family time. That's always more important. So we'll get to some other convos in just a smidge. Namely, I do want to talk about who's going to take that Florida job, why it's significant, could it be Lane Kiffin, all that stuff. We'll get to that at the bottom of the hour. One of the big storylines that emerged Saturday with LSU's loss to Vanderbilt was Tyree Adams. 15 plays into the game, Tyree Adams leaves with an ankle injury. He comes back with on crutches. Apparently, it's significant enough that there were reports Sunday night, Monday morning that Adams, already here on Monday, would miss the Texas A&M game. Brian Kelly clarified on Monday, in fact, that Tyree Adams will miss the game against A&M.
Yeah, he'll be out this week. DJ Chester will be over there. He's our most experienced guy. We'll give Carius Curne some reps out there as well and see how that goes during the week.
I can't say that I'm tremendously surprised that they're going to go Chester over Curne, just given the sample size of this past weekend, right? Adams gets injured. It was Chester that went in. I just don't know that I like it. And so Kelly was asked on Monday throughout the remainder of his presser kind of about that decision. First, sort of the reason why, 19 please, why they decided to go Chester over Curne at left tackle.
Well, that's the best fit for us as five. For the five guys that we're going to put out there. That's our best situation. Moving Josh over there is not going to do it for us. DJ's played a full game there at tackle already. This year, as you know, he played the entire Florida game. Based upon that, and he virtually played the entire game against Vanderbilt, other than the first 12 plays. He had one stumble where his foot got caught in the ground on the turf, and we had a sack that was given up. But by and large, he did what was expected of him, and I have confidence that he can go out there and do the job. Like I said, they've got an outstanding pass rusher over there. 9 or 50 is pretty good too. We'll have to help. We'll have to do some things to get the ball out quickly. But I feel like if we do that, we've got a guy that's played a lot of football.
By the way, 9 is Cassius Howell, 50 is Dayon Hayes. They're the edge rushers from A&M. I'll get to them here in just a quick second. And I also want to clarify something Kelly said, where he said that DJ had played the whole Florida game. He did not. Chester actually did not play against Florida. He didn't see the field. He played basically the whole Louisiana Tech game when Braylon Moore was injured on the first snap with his ankle injury. Chester played the rest of the game. I'm looking at it here, played 82 snaps against Tech. So he basically played the whole game except for the first snap. He played 18 snaps at center against Southeastern, and then he played this past weekend the full game against Vanderbilt at left tackle whenever after the 15 plays when Tyree Adams went out. Chester did, however, play 4 snaps at left tackle in the opener against Clemson when Tyree Adams kind of got tangled up, went out for a few plays. Chester went in for 4 plays at left tackle. And you remember, that's something Brian Kelly kind of said earlier in the year with DJ, was that he was the next man up at any spot along the 5. He started at center for you a year ago. He's really, truly a more natural guard, 6'6", 320, physical, explosive guy that can move bodies, but not necessarily athletic enough to play out and play tackle. I mean, he is a natural guard who last year played out of position at center, out of necessity, to get your next best guy on the field. And you were able to sort of make up for that because you had so much experience around him with Frazier and Dellinger flanking him on either side. You were really good at tackle with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. Now you're asking Chester, just as a guy that's started on the road at A&M, that's started on the road at Arkansas, that's started major home games against Alabama and started in Vegas against Southern Cal. So he's been in a lot of those moments. So I do understand what Brian Kelly is saying there, that you're choosing the more experienced option in DJ Chester. And yes, he did play this last week against Vanderbilt. We do run through the PFF grades, and I do think there's merit to that. I always say it's a metric. It's not the metric. It's something to consider. But I do, with the offensive line, tend to lean more on the PFF grades because you don't have statistics. Like, we can look at traditional statistics and look at quarterbacks with completion percentage and QBR. We can look at running backs with like yards after contact. I mean, there's things that you can look at with other positions that's harder with the offensive line. Well, Chester played 38 snaps at left tackle this week against Vanderbilt, and his pass blocking grade was a 37.6. So it wasn't necessarily a great day for DJ Chester at left tackle against Vanderbilt. And you heard Brian Kelly say the notable play where Nuss got sacked, where Chester got flat-backed, you heard him say there, Kelly said that his foot got caught in the turf. Okay, I'll take him at his word for it. We all saw the play. Maybe Chester got tied up, turf monster, whatever happened there. And maybe that's why his grade went the way it did. But when I look at Carius Curne, remember, Weston Davis got concussed in pregame, and so Curne played the entire game at right tackle. And Curne's pass blocking grade, again, he true freshman who hadn't played right tackle before, 15 minutes before the game finds out he's going to be starting, and his pass blocking grade was an 80.3. In a game where nobody played particularly well on that offensive line against Ole Miss, the true freshman making his first start did. By the way, remember, the reason Curne started and not Chester is because Chester had been flagged for targeting in the second half the week prior against Southeastern, so he was unavailable. And so then at the start of the second half, they could have gone to Chester, but stuck with Curne. I mean, this was Brian Kelly after that Ole Miss game, why they stuck with Curne over Chester.
Because what we saw in the first half, essentially, I think if there were major issues, Matt, Brad and I would have probably made a decision there to make the change. But we felt like Carius was giving us good energy. He was protecting our edge really well in the passing game. There were a couple of mistakes inside out, which we expected that was going to happen. But by and large, we felt like let's let the young guy play. And that was kind of our sense.
Okay, so they played him against Ole Miss, chose him in the second half over Chester, but here now you're going to go Chester over Curne, and Kelly was asked on Monday why.
As it relates to Carius, we're in a situation now where, we've got a matchup this weekend against a veteran team and, a great pass rusher, certainly. And Carius is coming on. But to throw a true freshman in there, I don't want to put him in that situation. I could see him playing, but I prefer to play a guy that's had a lot of experience at that position. And knowing that whoever's at that position with number 9, you've got to help. You got to get somebody that chips. You got to put a tight end over there, elongate the pocket. You've got to do a lot of things in the pass game to help whoever's playing over there.
Man, it's so reminiscent of 2012 against South Carolina, who incidentally was ranked 3rd in the country when they came in to Baton Rouge. And you had Jadeveon Clowney and Devin Taylor as the great defensive ends, and LSU had a big mix-up on its offensive line that week. Hurst left the team. You had an injury at left tackle. You ended up starting Josh DeRosick at left tackle that game, and he pitched a shutout on Clowney and Taylor. And LSU won a pretty dramatic game, if you remember it, in Tiger Stadium. It feels like that's brewing here again with what you're going to do here with Chester out there at left tackle. But what Kelly's talking about there against this A&M team, listen, they're very good in the defensive front. Texas A&M is 6th in the country in TFLs with 55. They are 6th in the country in sacks with 25. Cassius Howell, who wears number 9, he is really good, man. He has 8 sacks and 9 TFLs on the season. That is a dude. He transferred in to Texas A&M. Cassius Howell did. And by the way, remember, a year ago, A&M lost a ton on its defensive front, so they went heavy in the portal this year to replace its defense. So you're talking about a guy in Cassius Howell who was at Bowling Green, transfers to Texas A&M, and has had a hell of a start to his season, as I mentioned, with the 9 TFLs, the 8 sacks, and he did have 3 against Utah State, but it's not like he had one game that was just this watershed moment. He had 3 sacks against Utah State. He had 1 against Auburn, 2.5 against Mississippi State, 1 against Florida, half a sack against Arkansas. So he has affected the passer in every game. And then Dayon Hayes is a transfer from Colorado who wears number 50. He's the other guy who's played a bunch, and they're both really good on the edge. And LSU's tackles have been not very good this year. And so this is a massive challenge. It would have been a massive challenge for Tyree Adams. Now it's going to be a massive challenge for Chester and Weston Davis. They better give help because you're going to need it this week against that edge from Texas A&M, which would be the best pass rushing defense that you faced so far this season. But it'll be no Tyree Adams. It'll be DJ Chester at left tackle. See if he can hold up against this Texas A&M defensive front. All right, it's After Further Review. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center. 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. That's WilliamsonEye.com. You want to see 2020, call 924-2020 for the Williamson Eye Center. If you're tired of glasses, contacts, readers, there's never been a better time to see clearly. The Williamson Eye Center, they offer modern vision correction procedures with better results, faster recovery, and new options for people who have always been told you're not a candidate. I was told that for a long time. Turns out I was a perfect candidate. And because we're nearing the end of the year, your FSA, your HSA benefits may be about to expire. Why let them go to waste when you can invest in something life-changing? Schedule that consultation at the Williamson Eye Center right now. Go to WilliamsonEye.com, 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 virtual or in person. You can do a virtual consult if that's easier for you to save you time. 924-2020 or WilliamsonEye.com. All right, y'all, it is After Further Review. Thanks for hanging out with us here. Monday show is brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. We'll talk to Kat Terrell in 1 hour. When we come back, though, I do want to give you my thoughts on the really disappointing news for the New Orleans Saints. Erik McCoy, Kendre Miller reportedly done for the season. What that means for this group. We'll talk about it next on AFR.
AFR.
AFR is brought to you by Clegg's Nursery with 4 locations in the greater Baton Rouge area. Siegen near Airline, LA16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Tell you every day to buy local and shop local. Y'all, it is not too late. We are 11 days away from Halloween, and they still have an amazing selection of pumpkins, all sizes, colors, shapes, interesting and unique gourds and squash and hay bales. So it is not too late to decorate your front porch for Halloween. If you want to carve your pumpkin pies, pumpkin painting parties, all that sort of stuff, home, school, work, Clegg's Nursery has an awesome selection. So get on by and see our friends at any of the 4 Clegg's Nursery locations. Siegen near Airline, LA16 in Denham, Mid-City on Donmore, and the Garden Center on Greenwell Springs. Awesome time to get by. To buy local, to shop local. Tell them Matt sent you in to Clegg's Nursery.
After Further Review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and oh, we do shutters too.
we had our chances. I thought our guys battled. I thought our guys put ourselves in a really good position in the middle of the game to come back and get ourselves back in it. A couple scores, one at the end of the half, one to start the third quarter, but then we just couldn't keep it going. And so credit to those guys. They play better than us. They coach better than us. We got to find the formula that works.
That is Ellen Moore.
Ellen Moore.
Now 1-6 as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. Moore met with reporters on Monday and unfortunately confirmed the news that had been reported that both Erik McCoy and Kendre Miller are lost for the season.
Roster-wise, obviously we'll end up having a couple moving pieces here as a result of this, with Erik McCoy's bicep being done for the year and then Kendre's ACL being done for the year. So obviously really unfortunate because both those guys have felt like been playing some really good football, and they've been doing a lot of good things. And so opportunities for other guys moving forward. We'll have to navigate that and play with those different combinations and sort through that.
So we'll do two things here. One, we'll talk about what the Saints are losing in these guys, both the injuries, and who has the opportunity now with both McCoy and Kendre Miller done for the season. First of all, with Erik McCoy, this is devastating. You've invested so much in the offensive line. We've talked about it plenty, right? I mean, you all know with Fuaga, Banks, Penning, Ruiz, it's 4 first-round picks. McCoy was a second-round pick, but in his draft, he was your first selection. You didn't have a 1 that year. He was your first pick in that draft. And I think Fuaga and Banks have the potential to be really good players. Your guards with Penning and Ruiz, they're among the worst in the NFL at their position. Those are wasted draft picks. You blew it. You wasted first-round picks on 2 dudes that are busts. You're running them out there almost out of obligation because you used first-round picks on them, but I don't know that either is dramatically better than anyone else you'd have on your roster that you'd bring in off the street. I'm hopeful for the young tackles. McCoy has been really good. Unfortunately, a year ago, he missed a chunk of the season because of the groin injury. And now he's going to miss 11 games, I guess 10 games. There's 7 in, so he'll miss 10 games because of the bicep injury. And it affects the battery. I mean, you're trying to develop young quarterbacks here, and that battery with the center is so important. And now McCoy's lost for the year. When you look at Erik McCoy's contract, he signed an extension on his rookie deal that was a 5-year, $60 million extension. So he's under contract through 2027. He doesn't become an unrestricted free agent until 28. So he's got 2 more years after this one with accelerators. However, after a restructure, next year his cap hits $17 million. The dead cap number is $18 million. So he'll certainly be back next year. If you would want to move on at some point, you would look at 2027 as the opportunity where he's got $17.5 million cap hit and his dead number is 10.9. So you'd save money there. But essentially to say, if you're thinking like, is this a point with a guy he's 28 years old, still a relatively young player, are you thinking of the next option after back-to-back season-ending injuries? Last year wasn't season-ending, but cost you a chunk of the season. I don't think you're there, certainly not yet, with Erik McCoy. And as Kellen Moore said, he kind of explained what you lose in Erik McCoy and losing your veteran starting center.
Certainly he's one of our most impactful leaders on this team, and so other guys are going to have an opportunity to fill that void on the field. I think Erik still has that presence to all these guys. No matter what capacity he's in, he'll do everything he can to help, and think the world of him. He's been playing some phenomenal football, and so we'll have to navigate the roster as far as how that position ends up playing out. We have about 24 hours to kind of sort through that, and then we'll have to put a plan of action together and move forward with it.
The good news, I don't know that I would call this good news, but if there's a smidge of good news here, it's that you have a little bit of a safety net, more so than you had a year ago. And look, Lucas Patrick came in and you had Shane Lemieux as well, and those guys did their best amid that offensive line shuffle with so many injuries. Remember, this offseason back in August, you traded Colin Saunders to Jacksonville for Luke Fortner. I'm not sitting here telling you that Luke Fortner's a dominant player, but you sent Saunders to Jacksonville to get a veteran backup offensive lineman because Saunders didn't really fit the mold of what Brandon Staley wanted in his defensive lineman. So you saw a guy that you could move and get some value. And so they moved Saunders and got Fortner. Fortner spent 3 years in Jacksonville. And up until this point in his career, he had started 34 games. He was a 2-year starter. He started every game in 22 and 23 in Jacksonville. Played in every game in 24, but lost his starting job. And then this year has played in all 7 games. But so he's been active and played in all 7 games as a backup, special teams, all that sort of stuff as your rotational guy. But now likely is the one that fills that void. By the way, this was Ellen Moore back in August when they traded for Luke Fortner.
We felt like it was an awesome opportunity. Luke's done a lot of good things in this league. He's played a number of snaps, started a number of games. He's a really smart player. So he gives us some interior depth that we felt like could be very valuable as the season goes.
There's validity to that. And remember, Doug Peterson was the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars when they drafted Luke Fortner. This is what Peterson said back in the 22 draft when they picked him.
There's a lot to like about Luke. One, when you meet this kid, he's wired the right way. We do like him at center, but he has the position flex to move to guard as well, which again, the position versatility is really good. And gives us the depth at the position. It gives great competition there. He's a guy that when you watch him on film, he can do everything that we do in our offense in the run game. Whether he's reaching a 3 technique or climbing to the second level, he's got the ability to do that. He can redirect, and just a really good fit for our offensive line in that room.
They took him, by the way, Jacksonville took Fortner in the 3rd round. Remember, out of Kentucky. If you're an SEC fan, you might remember the name. So there's a guy with some familiarity there, and they were high on him coming out of college, and he's played a good amount of football. He's played in 58 games with 34 starts in his career. So you're talking about a guy that's played a lot of football. So it's not quite as dramatic a drop-off as a year ago when you were having guys play out of position and shuffling on the offensive line. So that trade for Fortner does soften the blow of losing McCoy a smidge. At running back, losing Kendre Miller just sucks. It just sucks. That's a guy who it was looking clearer and clearer that a big part of why his career was slow to launch was that previous coaching staff. They drafted him, but look, a year ago when they were out in California for camp and Miller had the soft tissue injury like the first day, and Dennis Allen was can't make the team in the training room and was just riding Kendre Miller. It was hard to imagine his future here. Well, the change of leadership ended up proving to be very fruitful for Miller, and he had been really fun to watch so far this season, not only in the running game, but also in the return game as well. You kind of saw some of the explosiveness that made Kendre Miller a 3rd-round draft pick, averaging over 4 yards a carry this season. He was able to catch the ball as well out of the backfield. But now this ACL injury, 7 games into the season, he's done for the year. And so you look at what's next. More Monday. Keep play number 5, please. This was Kellen Moore talking about Kendre.
I'm really proud of what Kendre has turned this season into from an individual standpoint, the progress he's made. It's a really unfortunate timing from an injury perspective, just because even that run, yesterday was a really good run. And so, there'll be some challenging days for him because of this. We think the world of him. He's going to be better, moving forward, and he'll be back and have more opportunities in the future.
We'll see if that actually holds. What this means now is a great opportunity for Devin Neal. Now, the Saints drafted Devin Neal in round 6 this year, and this is one of those day 3 draft picks that a lot of people were excited about because he's a guy that left Kansas as their all-time leader in every rushing category. But as a guy that was, it's 5'11", 213, and maybe a half step slow, ended up being a 6th-round pick. Instead, if he was a half step faster, he might have been a day 2 pick. Now, he was slowed in camp at the beginning of the season. Remember, he basically missed the preseason because of a soft tissue injury. And he just hasn't had the opportunities. He's going to get them now. He had 2 carries in the opener against Arizona. He had 1 carry Sunday against Chicago, 1 carry for 1 yard. But with an aging Alvin Kamara and now Devin Neal, presumably the number 2, replacing Kendre Miller, that role has got to increase here, and that's something Kellen Moore acknowledged on Monday.
We've really liked Devin all the way through this whole process. We were fired up when we drafted him. He had an unfortunate injury that limited his preseason exposure. I thought he hopped in there, played some kick return as well. His role obviously will increase quite a bit moving forward. And, I think he can do all aspects of the run game, pass game, protections. We're going to count on moving forward.
So we have looked a lot this year at young guys trying to identify who can be cornerstone pieces to build on for the future. We've talked a lot about Quincy Riley and Jonas Sanker and Danny Stutzman. Obviously, the tackles, Banks and Fuaga. We can throw Devin Neal in the mix now. I don't know what the answer to the test is going to be, but you got 10 games, which will be a really good audition to see if you feel like this 6th-round pick can be someone who can contribute for you on Sundays, or if he's just going to be a guy that's a special team or practice squad guy, bounce around for a few years in the league, and then, go back to Lawrence and sell insurance or open up a car dealership or something. I don't know what he'll do. But this is a really good audition for him. It's unfortunate how it's coming about, but it's here. So we'll see if he can make the most of it. All right, it's after further review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here, halfway home on a Monday edition of AFR presented by Relief Windows. Let me knock out a quick break. We'll come back, and I want to shift back to the major storyline in college football from Sunday, which was Billy Napier being fired and the short list of candidates headlined by Lane Kiffin for who could be next in Gainesville. I got some thoughts. We'll do it next. It's AFR.
After further review.
Get Gordon and get it done. Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident and it's not your fault, do what injured people in our state have done for 3 decades. Get Gordon and get it done. You can always go to getgordon.com, getgordon.com. You can see testimonials there, real, actual client results. And I always encourage you as well to check them out on social media. Like right now, we always tell you about the G team, the great NIL deals that Gordon and his team have done. Right now, there's a cool video up with LSU running back Caden Durham. If you want to check that out, you can do it on all the social media at GetGordon, at GetGordon. That's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's all there for you at GetGordon. So be sure to follow Gordon on all the social media. You can learn more about the great NIL deals that Gordon has done with so many players, not only with the Tiger football team, but all different sports and different schools as well. So you know what to do. You've been injured in an accident. It's not your fault. Get Gordon and get it done.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, and we do shutters too.
Well, Billy Napier became the 11th coach fired this football season after the Gators beat Mississippi State but dismissed Napier on Sunday. Scott Strickland made it official, releasing a statement. It was all over, but the shouting last week when the boosters had a meeting with Strickland and said effectively fire him or we're not giving you any more money. Well, money talks, and you can't operate without booster support and financial support. And so Napier, his days were numbered. They're heading into the bye, so he's gone. That's not surprising at all. This felt like an inevitability. It was going to happen. Billy Napier was going to get fired. It was a matter of when they were going to pull the trigger there. The big question now becomes, okay, well, who is next? And all of the conversation is centering around Lane Kiffin. And there was a report from John Talty of CBS that Scott Strickland has already begun doing his due diligence on Lane Kiffin possibly being the next Florida coach, and also that Ole Miss has already begun the conversations about an extension to keep Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. Clearly, that is going to be the first domino to fall, be it Kiffin deciding to stay at Ole Miss or leaving for Florida or wherever it may be. But it feels like the rest of the coaching carousel won't spin until that domino falls. Pete Thamel on ESPN weighed in on who is next at Florida.
The big name that's going to loom over this job is Lane Kiffin. The Ole Miss coach would be a really fascinating foil to Kirby Smart in that Florida and Georgia rivalry. He's obviously outkicking Ole Miss's historical norms by a significant amount, and he fits the vibe that Florida wants. Remember Spurrier's fun and gun, Urban Meyer's spread. Billy Napier's offense, simply put, was kind of boring. And Lane Kiffin does bring sort of that sarcastic verve we remember from Spurrier in his glory days. I'd be surprised, Arda, if the next Florida coach isn't one of these four gentlemen: Kiffin, Jeff Brom of Louisville, Eli Drinkwitz of Missouri, or perhaps Rhett Lashley of SMU. And we'll add another candidate with a Florida tie. Jed Fish of Washington was Howie Roseman's roommate for a stretch in Gainesville.
That's Pete Thamel. It's interesting when it comes to coaching searches, and we'll talk about Florida, obviously, because it does impact LSU. And certainly if Lane Kiffin were to leave Ole Miss, that even more so impacts LSU, because Ole Miss is one of LSU's 3 annual opponents. Florida now is not, but you'll play them every other year. So yes, you absolutely are going to talk about coaching hires that affect you. My feeling on this is I would love to see Lane Kiffin take the Florida job. Now, hold on. I know you're going to roll your eyes and say you're crazy. My preference would be that Lane Kiffin go coach at Oregon State and get the hell out of town and go coach somebody else far away that you never have to see. But my feeling is, and has always been, I need doormats to be doormats. I don't need Vanderbilt beating LSU. I don't need Lane Kiffin getting Ole Miss to the playoff. I don't need Arkansas being ranked 3rd in the country with Bobby Petrino back in 2011. I need doormats. Now, I understand that I'm sitting here telling you that we have reached a level of parity in college football that we've never seen before. The ceiling has been lowered. The floor has been raised. I don't think at this point anyone could disagree with me. Look around college football. Indiana is ranked number 2 in the country. And it's not like a season ago where they had a bunch of patsies on their schedule. They went 11-1, but got their ass kicked by the 2 legitimate teams they faced. They went to Oregon and won by double digits, and it wasn't even that close. Oregon got a pick 6 in the 4th quarter that made it look closer than it really was. Vanderbilt beating LSU wasn't a fluke. It's a good football team. They got a real approach with how they're building their roster. They're going for veteran players, guys that have played a ton of football. They're fitting the system they want. Really good coach in Clark Lee. Tim Beck's done a great job with the offense. Again, shortening the game. They got their approach. And they're recruiting and signing out of the portal guys that fit the mold of what they want to do. I would love to see, you know who I want to see coach Ole Miss? I want to see Matt Luke coach Ole Miss. I want to see Ed Ogeron coach Ole Miss. I want to see Ole Miss be the Ole Miss they were from 1965 until Lane Kiffin showed up. Occasionally, David Cutcliffe and Eli will have a year where they claim a championship they didn't win. But by and large, they're runs. That's what I need from Ole Miss. I need Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss and for them to be awful. Florida, I always anticipate Florida's going to be good. They got great resources, good recruiting base, history, all that sort of stuff. Always assume they're going to be good. Yeah, and they'll screw up and hire Ron Zook. They'll screw up and hire Billy Napier and swing and miss. But the majority of what Florida's been for the last 40 years has been Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer. Dan Mullen had success there. Oh, Yellow Teeth, the Shark Humper. What was his name? He got them to the SEC championship game a couple of times. McElwain. Like, Florida, you anticipate is going to be okay. So Lane Kiffin in Florida doesn't disrupt the flow of the ecosystem of college football. Lane Kiffin making Ole Miss relevant disrupts the ecosystem of college football, the natural way of the world. Clark Lee making Vanderbilt relevant is a problem. I need him to leave. What I need is for Diego Pavia to not get any more eligibility, and then they probably go back to not being great. I don't know that they'll go back to 2-22 in the conference over 3 years, but they're probably not going to get to top 10 in the country again. Anyway, don't want to get distracted. So, yes, I know there's a lot of LSU fans today, especially after LSU lost to Vanderbilt, that want to see Lane Kiffin coach LSU. I'm here to tell you, Coach, that ain't going to happen. All right? Like, LSU's not firing Brian Kelly. There's no appetite to pay a $50 million buyout. So, that ain't happening. Let that ship sail. The question is, would you rather see Lane Kiffin stay at Ole Miss and continue to be a thorn in your side in Oxford? Or would you rather him go to Gainesville, where they're probably going to invest and have good rosters? And I remember, dude, Napier beat you last year. You lost last year in Gainesville to Napier. Florida's good. I'm okay with Florida being good. They're usually good. I need Ole Miss to not be good. So I need Lane Kiffin to leave Ole Miss. Will he? I don't know. What I'm confident of is it won't be a money thing. And there's talks of Ole Miss bumping Lane Kiffin to the $12, $13 million a year range, which Florida could pay too. That's not going to be the question for Kiffin. And I believe he's much happier at Ole Miss now than he was 3 years ago. And I will tell you, I know with absolute certainty that he was pissed in 22 that Florida and LSU did not call him. Lane Kiffin did not get a sniff from Florida or LSU in 2022. And I don't know if that lingers. No idea. But clearly he's in a much different spot. He's talked about it. A lot of people who cover the sport nationally have talked about it. It's very obvious when you look at Lane Kiffin. It's also obvious that they can compete. They've invested to be able to compete. The question is, does he feel like he can win a championship at Ole Miss? If he can, I think he stays. If he feels like he cannot win a championship at Ole Miss, that he's maximized what they can be at Ole Miss, then I think he'll take a top-tier job that wants to have him. And Florida would certainly qualify. LSU would as well, but LSU's not going to be open. Unless if Brian Kelly decides he doesn't want to coach anymore. That's about the only way it would happen. I might talk about that coming up in 15 minutes. Brian Kelly's future at LSU. Since a lot of you want to talk about that today. All right, it's after further review. We're brought to you by Arco Power Systems. Arco.com, 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 ARCCO, Arco.com, Arco Power Systems. When we live in Louisiana, particularly South Louisiana, people know a lot about generators. What I'm talking about with Arco, however, is not home standby generators. Okay, this is not for your home. This is industrial generator power. This is for your business. What type of business? Any type of business. Nursing homes, grocery chains, hospitals, hotels, banks, chemical plants, gas stations, universities, governments, municipalities, any type of business. What happens when the storm comes, the power goes out at your business? What happens? For many of us, that's not an option. Arco Power Systems can help. They work 24/7 during disasters. They can come install a permanent standby generator option. They can rent you your standby generator. And, of course, they can service your generator. It's Arco Power Systems. Turnkey service. Be proactive. They sell, lease, and service industrial generator power. It's Arco Power Systems. Arco.com, Arco.com, ARCCO, Arco.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. Monday shows are brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows, door siding, they do shutters as well, ReliefWindows.com. Cat Terrell in 30 minutes, talk a little who dat. How the Saints move on without Kendre Miller and Erik McCoy, and what Kellen Moore had to say on Monday. We'll dive into that with Cat coming up here about 30 minutes from right now. We'll also get to our college football takeaways. And in about 15 minutes, I will talk about what I think will be Brian Kelly's future at LSU. We'll do that as we continue. We're glad you're here on a Monday edition of AFR. Stick around.
After further review.
You ever thought about building a pool? Sure you have. Maybe you have a home that has a pool and it needs a facelift, a pool remodel. Duplessis Builders can help you there. Or maybe you live in that home that you love your home, but you've always wanted a pool. And you wondered, who should I hire? Hear horror stories of some pool builders. Can I really afford it? What are my options? I'll tell you. You need to give Duplessis Builders a shout. There's a lot of pool builders. Listen, there are a lot of pool builders. And a lot of pool builders have beautiful pictures of resort-style pools on Instagram. Duplessis has those as well. But with Duplessis Builders, number one, get a 10-year workmanship guarantee when the industry standard is 1 year. That's because Derek stands by his work. He's an engineer by trade. He stands by his work. And number two, they can build you the beautiful resort-style pool, but they also have pools for any budget starting at $49,000. Learn more. DuplessisBuilders.net.
After further review, presented by Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding. And oh, we do shutters too.
All right, wrapping up hour number 2. We'll talk about Brian Kelly's future since that's been a hot topic since Saturday. It's coming up here in about 12 minutes from right now. Right now, Musso, Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, let's start with JD5. Daniels left the game against the Cowboys on Sunday with a hamstring injury. He would not return. After the game, Dan Quinn said they'll know more after an MRI. Well, the MRI was done on Monday. Dan Quinn, when he met with the media, said the MRI results were encouraging. The injury is not significant or long-term. However, they still don't have the sense of if he will be able to play a week from tonight when Washington heads to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. In the game, Daniels threw for 156, ran for 35, 2 total touchdowns. Grant Delpit for the Cleveland Browns, productive day for Delpit, 4 stops, including a sack for the former LSU safety. That sack, his first of the season for Cleveland. Big day in New England, technically in Tennessee, but for New England and the former Tigers. Kayshon Boutte, 2 receptions in the game, 55 yards and a touchdown. It was another deep shot, phenomenal catch by Boutte, and it ultimately was the deciding score in the game. Tennessee was up 13-10. That put the Patriots up 17-13, and they would never look back en route to a pretty comfortable victory. Kayvon Chaisson, we've talked plenty about him. He has made the most of his opportunities with New England, and that really can't be any more clear than what happened on Sunday. Just 3 tackles, but 2 of them were sacks. One of them forced a fumble that he would recover and run into the end zone for a touchdown. So that's just a all-around phenomenal day for Chaisson. He's now up to 4.5 sacks on the season for New England. Great day for 2 former Tigers in that one. 2 former Tiger teammates in that one. Devin White also, we've talked about him getting back to his old ways. How about 16 tackles for the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday, including 1 for a loss and another hit on the quarterback. And then lastly, we'll wrap up with some baseball. Over the weekend, Kevin Gausman towed the rubber for the Blue Jays, 5 2/3, gave up a run, punched out 4, got the no decision. Game 7 between the Blue Jays and the Mariners tonight. See if they can extend their season in Toronto. And for Kevin Gausman, that's Tigers in the pros.
Presented by South Point Volkswagen, southpointvw.com. New and certified pre-owned in Baton Rouge and online at southpointvw.com. Hey, remember, you can always explore financing on the website. It's really easy. Again, the average car buyer visits 1.2 dealerships now before making a purchase. That's because everybody shops online. So you have to be able to do the whole thing online. Real easy. Go to southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com. There's a finance tab at the top of the page. You can get pre-approved right there on the website, southpointvw.com. Pretty easy to fill out the application at the website. While you're there, you can shop all the vehicles. New and certified pre-owned. You can search every vehicle. If it's on the lot, it's online. All the dealer specials. They even have a 2025 first edition Volkswagen ID Buzz. That's the all-electric bus. If you want to check it out right now at southpointvw.com, southpointvw.com, South Point Volkswagen. What's your direction? All right, y'all, it's after further review. Glad Glad you're rolling along with us here. Remember, if you missed anything, you can email us, tweet us, or text us in the 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. There's lots of ways you can get involved in the show. Kat Terrell's coming up in 20 minutes from right now. We'll talk some Saints. Muse Taylor and I will give you our college football takeaways next hour. Jimmy will be here for Otterlocks, a double dip of Monday Night Football, and as Muse just mentioned, a Game 7 in Major League Baseball tonight. We'll get your picks coming up. They're live right now at LouisianaSports.net if you want them. When we come back, though, obviously since LSU lost to Vanderbilt, it's been a giant question everyone's asked about Brian Kelly's future at LSU. I'll give you my thoughts. We'll do it next when we come back on AFR.
AFR.
Y'all, Rouse's is here to help you cover the spread all season long. And I'm not talking about the point spread. We're talking about your tailgate spread. The Tigers are back at home this weekend with a gigantic night game in Tiger Stadium. Boy, it really could have been an epic all-time environment if the Tigers taking care of business against Vandy. They didn't, but still a top 5 team, undefeated number 3 Texas A&M coming in. And our friends over at Rouse's can help you prepare for your tailgate. All your beers, your bourbon, your wine, your tailgate trays, your party platters. If you're having a herd of people come in town this weekend and you're going to be hosting them all, either at a tailgate, a home gate, a game watch, let Rouse's help. Maybe just you and the fam at the house. You want some meat to throw on the grill. Get by the seafood market, the meat market, some steak, some fish, whatever it is. Rouse's got you covered, and of course, helping you make groceries for 65 years. With 70 locations from Lake Charles to Orange Beach and points in between, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home.